David Koresh. I believe it was Waco, Texas. David Koresh was a cult leader who had a compound, and there was reports of crime going on inside, so the FBI showed up. The FBI did not leave. Of course, David Koresh and his compound, his people in there, did not comply with the FBI. So the FBI refused to leave because they couldn't get everything they wanted right then. God knows where they came from. But they swoop in, and David Koresh doesn't comply, and there's some back and forth. So what does the FBI do? Well, it burned everyone alive inside of the compound. The FBI burned everyone alive inside of the fucking compound. Now, fast forward to when we have people from, I don't know, Somalia somewhere running ISIS training camps in the middle of, I don't know, outside of Wichita or wherever the hell they are, and the FBI shows up, and what do? It barely makes the newspaper. They bulldoze the compound and let the guy go. What does the guy do? He goes and he builds another ISIS training camp for kids. And the FBI finds it again. And they bulldoze it, and they apparently let the guy go. So he's still out there. So there's this double standard that people want to throw around, like, you know, and it was, oh, people are treated evenly when they aren't. Like, these groups are treated evenly when they're not. No, when they're on the left, when they're Democrat leftist militias and terrorist training camps, they're allowed to flourish and thrive. And only for optics will they ever be bulldozed and moved. Now, you compare that to like somebody who's like a Waco, where they're going to burn everybody alive inside of the building. Or you could even look at Ruby Ridge. Ruby Ridge was where you had this family who was like, I don't know if it was in West Virginia or where the hell it was, but they were hick. And they didn't like getting fucked with. Well, the FBI showed up because for some reason, there might have been reports of somebody dying or something like that. I can't remember, but they showed up, and of course they didn't get what they wanted, so then they said, well, we're going to stay and take over this area. So the people held out as long as they could until the FBI, there's a famous man inside the ranks of the FBI who's still alive, and he needs to be taken to my CIA black site, or my AIC, let's say, Agency of Intelligence Central. I'll create one with my militia, and he needs to be interrogated as to what he's been doing. Because the same guy who's been there forever, he made his chops by shooting the woman and the baby in the doorway. Do you remember that? How the woman had the baby and was in the doorway, in her door frame, and the guy shot the baby and her, and they both died. That's the FBI for you. You know, and they did come after the militias. They tried to destroy all the right-wing militias after Timothy McVeigh. You see, Timothy McVeigh went off and blew up a federal building in Oklahoma City, I think, which then was the excuse for the FBI to persecute and destroy all the other militia, any militia, because Timothy McVeigh supposedly came out of a militia somewhere. So it's like, oh, well, now we've got to go kill all the militias, which they did, right? Now, it's your constitutional right to form or join a militia. So you shouldn't be afraid at all of the idea, but they've really done a number on a militia. Yeah, kind of like what you guys have with your terrorist training camp for kids, except it's adults who just don't want to get fucked with when you send terrorists to their neighborhood, or when your centralized planning shows up, they want to be able to resist you. That's just the God's honest truth. It's like, yeah, the militia, why is it your constitutional right? Well, because when the government gets to the point where it wants to take your fourth grader away from you and inject it with the hormones of the opposite sex because the school system says it's gay, it's time to remove your kid from that school system, okay? Teach him inside of your militia what's right, the way that you think is appropriate for your child. And when the FBI or whoever, the authorities show up, you're going to have the wherewithal to resist them with arms because they're trying to take your kid away, turn him into a homosexual, inject them with poisons, kill your kid, right? And that went on in Texas for a while. It's like, go to Texas, okay, liberals, go from California into Texas, abduct kids through the school system after you get a job from your crony buddy, because you're a real son of a bitch leftist, and you're going to do that to kids, and inject kids with hormones of the opposites that aren't yours, and they aren't your kids. You're supposed to be teaching them. Tell the kid they're gay, and then go to the parents and say, you have absolutely no authority to do anything against me. Well, only if they put up with it, okay? Sometimes I hear these stories and I'm like, why would you ever rely on the courts to deal the kind of damage and punishment to the individual who rapes and kills kids like that and poisons them when the only person who's really fit to give the kind of punishments that's necessary that will lead to a full stop eventually of that kind of behavior in society is the father, probably with a ball-peen hammer, and a sash or a bone saw. It's just the way it is. And liberals want to act like they don't know that. Like that isn't their ultimate goal. Like they wouldn't use a bone saw on their enemies if it came down to it. They're running training camps for kids. Okay? How do you know the Democrats want to kill Americans? Well, look at the guy the Bernie supporter. Bernie's supposed to be this nonviolent guy, except he's not, because his supporters are all rioters and crazy people and people who will go shoot up a softball practice full of like Senate Republicans or whoever and try to kill all of them and try to murder all of them. So it's like, hey, when the liberals come around and try to make me dance to their tune about political correctness, I hit them with a fucking samurai sword right in the neck, with a machete like Jason Voorhees in the neck. Now, proverbially, I will hit them with a real machete in the neck if they keep it up, but I let them know and I set them right there so there's a little line of scrimmage like, okay, we're doing this, I don't play your stupid bullshit games, and we're doing this. And they always go, they usually get really pissed off, but they're the ones that want to come back, like everything's fine, with the same agenda, and try to make it roll out again, like they can do the Trojan horse, and rely on my good graces. Now, why am I saying all this? Well, why? Because I'm kind of I am a little disappointed. Because the one thing is the Democrats 8 years under Obama took over all the institutions of government completely and just did carte blanche whatever they wanted to. And these 4 years under Trump were the people's chance to get into the government and excise all of those people forever. And we didn't do it. So they're still there. The FBI is still a bunch of idiots. Pencil neck, rear echelon asshole, dickheads who are just another branch of the Democrat political establishment, which needs to be taken down. It can't be allowed to run because it's the enemy. It's the enemy, and so was the Republican Party, and so is the Republican Party today, just much less to a much lesser degree because Donald Trump reformed the Republican Party. Okay, so now the Republican Party is less of a threat and more of a populist movement of people than the Democrats, who are the establishment international elite. They're the international elite. That's all they are. They're not Americans. They're international globalists. They don't represent America at all. Okay, and they want like rivers of typhus shit with syringes and homeless people puking and shitting and peeing on your streets. They want the COVID. They love the COVID because the COVID lets them get you sick and then come around and punish you for it. See, it's the draconian communist and lock you down because they got you sick. Because they bungled something else because they're incompetent or full of malice. It's either incompetence or it's malice. It's a mixture of the two. Okay? They're not stupid because China was working on that virus. And they're buddy-buddy with China, who's no damn good, and never will be. Buddy-buddy with China, who's going to release this virus, and then what's Joe Biden going to say? Don't shut down travel, go to Chinatown, because he wants you to get sick, because then you're weaker. You're going to have a harder time resisting these lockdowns when they come around and punish you for them getting you sick, right? So maybe this vaccine will come out, and maybe Donald Trump can defeat that aspect of their little plot, okay? Because that disease didn't come out of nowhere. Idiot lefties who want to believe that the disease is Donald Trump's fault. It's not Donald Trump's fault, the COVID. It's China's fault, and it's the leftist international cabal's fault for doing it and mishandling it the way they did. Do you remember in Italy when that Chinese girl had a sign that said, "I'm not a disease," and was going around and hugging and kissing everybody? Doesn't that fly right in the face of social distance and wear a mask? Yeah, but see, the story changed. The story changed because the Democrats are far too afraid of China to be able to blame it for anything. So join your militia because it's your constitutional right. Resist authoritarianism. Take your kids out of school. Start your own economy. Don't go to work for somebody who's going to screw you. You know, don't go to work for a leftist. Stay home. Rip them off. Think of ways to get to them because that's what they've been. People don't realize that's what the left has been doing this whole time to people who work and are upright and righteous and don't predate on their fellow man. The left is the exact opposite. They sit around. They don't work. They watch you. They spy on you. They try to steal your mail. They try to get into your house. Okay, they survive like parasites off of you. So, what kind of a host would you be if you didn't stop doing what you were doing, turn around, and shoot that parasite right between the eyes? I don't know. You wouldn't be doing a good job of surviving, would you? So okay, here's some more real talk and what I really think.